Welcome back to Ill Blur Matic. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Returning subscribers, welcome back to the channel. New subscribers, welcome to the channel. Let's get right into it. So today's new episode review is going to be on West Show, one of my new favorite Marvel shows, episode 5 of Moonknight Asylum. So let's start off with this episode. So this episode starts off in an odd fashion. And what do I mean by odd fashion? We hear someone in the water, like in this dark place. We also, in this episode, see this other lady that may be tied to Mark's past. So let's get back into this. So in this episode, in the last episode, we were introduced to the other goddess, the hippopotamus goddess, pretty much. And pretty much we see Mark going in and out of it. Sometimes we see him in this episode with Arthur and them having conversations. Then we see them back with the hippopotamus goddess, him and Steven. In this episode, we learn that this asylum pretty much is a part of Mark's mind. Literally, you know what I'm saying? And the interesting thing about this is this asylum literally has rooms, okay? Like literally rooms. And we start to dabble and learn a little bit more about Mark Spector, because that's the original person. Steven is a part of the other personality. And I love how the hippopotamus guy said, "Oh yeah, this is your mind. This is all in your mind and everything." Also, she mentions that this is the afterlife. Once they exit the actual asylum, they find out that they're on this like actual boat, you know what I'm saying, to the afterlife, literally. Now the problem is, in this episode, we see that the scales of Mott are not balanced. These are like pretty much the scale has the feather, the other scale has the two hearts, which is Mark and Steven. And she said, "Oh, we got a problem. We have a problem. The scale is not literally balanced, you know." So pretty much in this episode, we see Mark go into a couple rooms. The first two rooms, we see the first room when he first becomes Moonknight as Mark. The second room is the room where pretty much Kanju and literally pretty much Steven pretty much doing the thing that they shouldn't have done, having the moon come out and disobeying the gods, and that's why Kanju is banished once again. And then we come across a room that's kind of creepy, okay? This room literally is the room where Mark Spector has killed every single person in this room. First, he does not realize that he has killed all these people. Then it starts to come back to him like, yo, I remember these people now. These are all the people that I killed. These are all the low-life, the most dirtiest, corrupt individuals, low lives of society that I actually took out myself. Steven didn't recognize anybody, so this was definitely another room of Mark's inside this actual asylum. So then, shockingly, we see a little boy. The little boy we see literally in the room, and like Steven's confused, like, bro, you ain't killed no little kids, did you, bro? You know, that's what's coming to his mind. But we find out that the little boy runs back into this other room. And what happens now is very interesting. We are learning about who is Mark. So we see pretty much Steven able to get inside the room. Mark is locked out the room. Mark is trying to get in. He's trying to budge into the room. Bruh, it's too late now. Steven gonna find out what's really going on. And we are introduced to a younger Steven. And in this part of this episode, we are introduced to Kid Mark. Sorry. Kid Mark. And literally with Kid Mark, we learn about he had a mother and father. Also, we see his mother. I forgot to mention, we saw his mother in the room first, literally. And you know, he has a sibling. And what happens is it takes a drastic turn. Him and his sibling, they go to this cave, and inside this cave is filled with water. We hear Steven, his other personality, telling like, "Hey, I got you guys," and all this other stuff. But only one person makes it out the cave. And who is that makes it out the cave? Mark. Mark is the only one that makes it out the cave. And Steven realizes that things change, you know what I'm saying? And in this episode, it felt like, you know, it was like you could see how broken Mark was, you know what I'm saying? His mother not being as close to him, Ashley, because of what happened. We also see that Mark eventually comes across a room where they're at the brother's funeral. His mother is upset with him, and you could tell she's not really happy with him. There also is a scene where we see his mother become an alcoholic. And, you know, sometimes people do turn to drugs to cope with trauma. Also in this episode, we see the reason why Stephen Grant became Stephen Grant. We seen this episode, Tomb Buster. Remember in the last episode where they showed like this film and stuff? Tomb Buster character Stephen Grant, that's how he got that actual personality. And we saw that quickly where he locks himself in the room because his mother's about to whoop him due to the abuse he's been kind of dealing with. So the trauma became the reason why he came up with these other personalities to kind of deal with it on a psychological aspect of it. And we see him when his mother finally gets into the room. He's trying to clean up the room. He has this whole nother accent, has his British accent and everything. That is Stephen Grant from the Tomb Buster movie. Also in this episode, we see that he's going to take another loss, another L. So we also, I forgot to mention, I want to talk about this too. We learn about the origin of how he became Moonknight. So when pretty much what happens is they end up in this desert. In the desert, we see all the people that were killed. You know what I'm saying? When he was a mercenary, when he was Mark the mercenary, Mark Spector. And we see literally all the dead people. And then there's one particular person, which is Layla's father, which he had some regret. He felt like I think that was the pain too. He couldn't save the woman that he ends up marrying eventually, his father. He was an archaeologist, and it's unfortunate, but we see that Mark is on his deathbed, literally. And we see that because we see him crawling to the tomb. We see Steven and he's like, "Hey, where do you think he's going?" You know, and Mark trying to figure out where's going. And Mark's like, that's where he's going. So we see this area that's like this, like, you know, where Kanju's at and everything. And we see him becoming, this is like his hero origin story, where he's on his deathbed. He's literally about to die. Kanju kind of like gives him some rules. Like, yo, you know, are you going to be the fist of justice? And, you know, do you want to live? Do you want to die type of like speech? And he said, I want to live. And we see him become the iconic freaking Moonknight. I was like, yo, y'all got to give us an origin story, bro. I kept saying, I said, bro, if we don't get this origin story and we got one more episode left, I'm like, bruh. But this episode showed that and what he went through, and he became Moonknight. Also, in this episode, we see him returning. You see him leaving his father. He couldn't put up with his mother anymore as Mark. And we also see the next part of this episode where he's at his mother's funeral, and he's out. His dad is looking outside the freaking window. I think Mark had a lot of hatred for his mother, like his mother had hatred for him due to him being constantly accused of his brother's death, for drowning in that cave. We also are teased with Jake. We see Jake again, where he's on the cell phone. I think that was another coping mechanism. So we can see how broken Mark is, because he's like creating these personalities to deal with all this trauma and how broken he is and inside, as a person. Also in this episode, we see eventually, Mark and Steven literally selling to the gates of Osiris. And literally what ends up happening is the dead souls of the afterlife come on to the actual boat that they're on. And literally they fight them off and stuff, but eventually Steven is pretty much taken off the freaking boat. And literally the boat is already kind of going towards the Osiris gates. Literally, and pretty much Steven becoming petrified in the sand, literally like turned into like sand himself, and probably one of the citizens of the afterlife now. Very essential for this episode. We learned that now the scale is balanced. Steven, they didn't need Steven Grant. What I think with this episode, I gotta say, now it makes me wonder what was in the other tomb in the previous episode of Moonknight, episode 4. Because remember, there was one room where there was a tomb, someone was in there. Is this either Aminette, or is this Mark's other personality coming out? Also, I love in this episode the transitioning where we see Ethan Hawke and as Arthur having conversations with Mark and stuff. This episode was crazy, man. And it shows you how broken he was inside as a character. I gotta say, man, this Moon Knight episode by far was one of my favorites. Because we finally got an origin story. We learned about his backstory a little bit. It seemed like it connected to the comics. So props to Marvel for doing that. Also, the performances with Oscar Isaac playing this character is incredible. I got a feeling he's going to win an award for this show once it ends. Ethan Hawke's performance as the villain is very interesting, by the way. Also, I want to talk about Arthur for a little bit. I think with Arthur succeeding, killing Steven, I got a feeling maybe Arthur is somehow communicating with him inside the asylum. I could be wrong, you know what I'm saying? But this episode was definitely impressive. Great story. Showed how, trauma built up and how these personalities came out. I love that we were introduced to pretty much the origin of Steven Grant. We also saw a bit of Jake Lockley. And like I said, we are seeing this show kind of unfolding with the origin story and everything. But this is your boy, Ill Blurred Matic, guys. I want to thank each and every person for checking out the video, whether you're commenting, liking. If you do both, great. And also for the people that watched the video all the way through. Thank you so much, guys. Your boy, Ill Blurred Matic. And I forgot to mention, this episode ends off literally where they're in this field, like literally just a wheat. So, and we see like Steven literally kind of confused of like what's going on. Not Steven, Mark, what's going on and everything. But this is your boy, Ill Blurred Matic, guys. Love the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, I'm out.